Hey, folks, welcome to this special Keepers meeting. Um, Basically, a lot has transpired in the last few months that is quite disturbing, and I want you all to know about it and what the plans are. And, even though I'm going to get into things that aren't quite, you know, bunny kisses and flowers, there is always hope. There is always hope. But anyway, I first want to say I know many of you out there just have taken and graduated from the Temples of Silence class. And I'll tell you, I went home after that class, and Celeste looks at me and says, "Are you all right?" Because I had tears running down my face. That class did so much better than I ever dreamed possible. And even with the caretakers here, the elders here, it has so changed them. And these folks have been with me for years, and everything has become so clear. And the Nick's temples is this last one was internally. The next one, just entitled "Silence," is external. And you don't have to have one to have the other, but it just blew me away. And I want to personally thank all of you for such epic feedback. Oh my God. Thank you. But anyway, you are all a major part of the Tracker family. You are the physical manifestation of grandfather's vision. And in the very near future, you're going to find yourself in the role of leader, protector, guardian, healer. And you're going to be much like the Apache Scouts, where you keep your people safe. Now, I'll say this once in the beginning of this class, but then I'm going to say it at the end. The meeting place is grandfather's camp. You know what I'm talking about. When the collapse is right on the vortex of going to hell. For those of you who are out west, I have other meeting places that you will meet, and we'll go from there. But what I'd like to do is start this meeting. Dave has got some pictures of the journey from the main camp to grandfather's camp. As we scroll through them, we're going to take a few minutes with each picture. I want you to envision yourself as walking that sacred path, that same path that that old man walked for so many countless years. And then I'm going to pause on the last picture of his camp. And I want you to pray for this meeting. Pray for your brothers and sisters, the lost, the searching, the sick, and the dying. Pray for the earth, please. Pray for the earth too. We'll go to me out of the screen. Dave, start the first picture and hold it there for a few minutes. Go to the next one. Next one. And the next. The next. Now the final one. All right, Dave. Now, this gathering, I've got a lot to tell you, but I want to start out with something very simple. It's an exercise. And many of you are used to the online classes. And my God, these online classes have been such a blessing because I've been able to take people to areas that I never dreamed it could be possible. And I'm watching skills just build. I'm getting emails and phone calls and text messages about healings and exorcisms and things that people have witnessed that, you know, when I first started the tracker school, I said to myself, my God, there's just so much. And you'll all remember back to your standard class, that first opening lecture, where I said to you, you're at the beginning of well over 100 levels of education at the tracker school. And then by the end of the week, you say to yourself after the standard class, how could there be more? You have no idea. And the neat thing is the online classes have given me the latitude to go into areas that I just couldn't go into if physical camp. Anyway, I'm going to ask you to do a simple exercise. And I'll need a write back just as it is in a normal online class. Nothing big, except for the way you're going to approach this. What I want you to do when I put you on this exercise, you don't even have to leave your own home. Just sit back and revel in the now. Get rid of that 600-pound gorilla. Then, I want you to empower your vision, your mission, your purpose. And in this, your mission, your purpose, is going to be to see into the future. How far? We're not leaving that up to you. Your empowered vision, mission is, I need to see what's coming. And you're letting the silence and the spirit world and the creator give you what you need, not what you want. So it's a simple surrender. For those of you who know it, surrender to silence. For those of you who just graduated last class, simply surrender to silence, to the sacred place of silence deep within your temple. And do it there. And then briefly write me. We're going to do this again, but after I'm done with this. So I'm going to give you 15 minutes to do that. If you find yourself yanked out for some reason, go right back into it and write me. 15 minutes with a 5-minute write back. Hey folks, welcome back. Disturbing. I mean, that isn't even a word for it. But what I was telling all the elders and instructors here and stuff, that when I look at the feedback that I get from, for instance, a Philosophy 2 workshop, when people go into the eternal cave and take a look into the future, this has so much more detail, in-depth, passion, emotion to it. It just jumps from the page. I want to read something to you. This is from Ralph Blair. I followed scenes from the west to the east as if it was a motion picture. Starting in the west where I saw cities and mountains, then toward the north there was smoke and burning in the far distance, and then the east, a peaceful green pasture with daisies and young pines at the other side of the pasture. It was strange not to have a feeling of looking toward the south. Now that's important. That's very visionary. And it leads into what I'm going to tell you. First and foremost on my list, communication between all of you, me included, is crucial. We are so very close to the collapse. I'm not talking tomorrow, next month. You got to remember that we are getting about 10 years away from the red skies. And I always remember grandfather talking about the red skies, where he said, it is not a question whether the red skies are going to come, for they will. The question is, how many people will be there to bear witness to it? That's 2033, right at this time of year. When grandfather said those red skies will take place, when I am at the age that he was when I met him, and I'd be 83, 82, 83 kind of a thing. Oh my God. Anyway, communication. You've got to, keepers, work on this. Have a meeting, Skype, text, email, whatever. Just to touch base. Hi, how are you doing? Something simple. Help each other out. Support each other. That's what family's all about. That's what grandfather's vision is all about, of the Tracker family. The other thing is, please, 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 that prayer of warning that you cry up every morning and evening, or how many times a day is needed, should have such passion, yearning, need, because you can't afford to miss even the smallest of nuances. And the beautiful thing is with it, that when that prayer goes out, it's not just to the Creator, it's the spirit world, it's the worlds of the Force, and so on. When you get that feeling that something isn't quite right, that's when you surrender immediately And what will return? Surrender to silence for many of you who know it. What returns is the origin and precipitator and location of that threat. And that's not just for you, it's for your family, your blood family, and the tracker family. That's why communication is urgent. We're spread out all over the globe. Some of you are going to see things before others witness it. Those two things are absolutely critical. You know, I want to talk about the state of the earth and the world. Remember, when I say the world, it is the world of humankind. When I say the earth, it's our sacred Earth Mother. And these are bunched together, but I've got notes from the very first standard class I ran back in 77, wherever it was, back in the Stone Age. And that one section of lecture, I warned people about what was coming. And then finally, about a decade and a half ago, when I said to myself, you know, I'm so afraid of being like somebody standing on the corner of Madison Avenue and whatever, Fifth Avenue or whatever, and having a sign, the end is coming or the end is near. And nothing happens. Well, I threw all caution to the wind. And I remember sitting down with that class online, also in the classes in the Fifth Primitive Camp, and spelled it out, put it in my book. Grandfather's warning of the 4 elements of collapse. And we're very close to the children running to the wild places. That's the key. That's the focal point of this gathering today. When you look at the state of the earth and the world, looking at the earth, everything is out of context. The animals, the plants. My God, Jay sent me a picture today of a dandelion blooming. You know, and we're dealing with 50-degree temperatures today, 55 here for the next couple of days. It's just absolutely ridiculous, the weather changes. But going down the list, earth upheavals. You've seen them. Kilauea, other volcanoes blowing. The earthquakes, you know, that would be under, of course, the earth upheavals. But then the weather. Oh my good God. Australia's underwater. California just got beaten to death. And it's absolutely ridiculous. Violence and mass shootings. This January has been the most deadly ever recorded with mass shootings. And most of them, there's no rhyme or reason, and that is a big factor. When you look at the pictures of these people who go into a classroom and blow away X amount of little kids, or drive their vehicle into a parade, or this or that or the other thing, look into their eyes, the mugshots, those of them that are alive. You see what's happening with the demons in darkness as people get more upset and distraught. No matter how much they try to bury this, it's still festering inside. They want to try to ignore it. But then there's people who are having mental health issues, and even people not. If they get angry enough or frustrated enough, that the dark side sees that as an inroad and literally infects their thinking. and causes them to do the most heinous acts imaginable. And then when it's all over and the person's either suicide or arrested, the darkness leaves. And the person's left there with vacant eyes, not even fully aware of what they did or why. And that's becoming more and more prevalent, more and more frightening. Diseases. Oh my God, we don't even have to get into that. There's new tick-borne diseases coming up here won't make it here in the next couple of years, but soon enough. There's the respiratory diseases. Look how many kids were hospitalized with respiratory problems. You know, you look at the television and the commercials all do about taking care of your skin, the psoriasis and all the other things. This is because we're living in a chemical cesspool. We're breathing it. We're eating it. And it's affecting our skin, our breathing, everything. Wars. Senseless wars. Gangs have really exploded. You know, right now, we're very apprehensive going from my house or the studio to camp. Why? Because gangs have taken over the trails. And I'm talking about the M gangs. Holy crap. As I told Celeste, the caretakers, the elders, I've never been afraid to go back into the pines. I was always the guardian. But now, it's frightening. Absolutely frightening. And we see it erupting all over the country. And the gangs are growing bigger and stronger, more powerful. Anarchy, riots. I think it's Atlanta now had to call out National Guard, 1,000 members. Starvation. A lot of people are on the verge of starvation. And a lot of people are drinking water that should not be drunk, whatever. It's too polluted. And of course, as grandfather said, all of the classic religions are falling, losing members. People have just lost faith. What I'm about to tell you now is from a series of severe and urgent visions. And it's haunting me big time. I've known about this for a few months. I've shared it only with a few people. But some dramatic things have changed. Central America, which I was compelled to say, this is where we should go. Yet, I knew inside that it wasn't entirely true. And it went from, if you imagine a traffic light, It went from green-yellow as a safe zone to an explosive volcano, red. Absolutely not. Unless you're alone and got a few people and you're way back in the rainforest. So many things have happened in Central America. A lot of people don't even know about them. A lot of the people I used to work with that were part of the shadowy part of our government have retired down to Central America. And some of them are still consultants on a higher level. Out of, I think, 5 people, 6, 4 of them are moving out of Central America, and fast. The last one's staying in because he has to. Government reasons. So what that does is it confirms my decision that it's not mine alone, it's the silence. It's the spirit world, it's the creator haunting, waking up in the middle of the night with porous sweat, panic stricken because I can't get my breath, it's so horrific. Like I said, there's so many reasons for this change. And then suddenly, after these horrific, intense visions of no Central America, even South America, I got very strong visions for North or South Carolina. And logically, it made sense to go to a foreign country where the rules are not like they are in the United States. You're safer at home, so to speak. But home, that's the issue. Celeste and I now are diligently looking into North and South America. North and South Carolina. It's got to fit certain criteria. Got to be away from cities, kind of up in the footholds, down back roads, easily defendable. And call it the higher foothills. We're looking for some kind of farm where we can plant crops, the main house, with enough acreage around it to support the people that are closest to me, that's on the same block of property. But also with enough parcels of land farther out that if you decide you want to become part of that community, you can do so. You can build a cabin. I mean, down North South Carolina, that's where a lot of cabins come from, prefab, and they're beautiful. But that's my leaning right now. And there are places in the United States that will absolutely fit the bill, but for some reason, I'm just compelled to that area. It's like a gnawing, a haunting that I made a mistake, and I'm apologizing profusely to all of you that I jumped the gun on this. I should have waited like my vision told me, but no. And again, it's got to be able to be strategically defended. And I've got people in place now that will help build this community. We're looking for a place with a spring on it, year round. possibly a pond. Remember, in a community, there's strength in numbers. There's strength in low numbers also, because it's easier to hide 2 to 4 people than it is to hide 100 people. But those 100 people, if they all have one vision and mindset, then it's a lot safer. I want you to start thinking about this, praying about this. I don't see it as mine. I'm not a leader. Celeste and I want to get someplace back there on a dirt road that people aren't going to easily go up, that's up toward the higher foothills. But that's selfish. If I could find an old farm that's already got like a barn and stuff, you know, I'm not getting any younger. And enough acreage where I can get my elders there, and then bordering up against national forest or whatever. You know, to give you an idea how close all of this is, Celeste and I have been talking for the last year and a half about this. And what we did is I took my old pickup truck, it wasn't old, my pickup truck, and an Airstream that my mother had actually bought for me, and traded them in on a 4-wheel drive camper van. And you know, it's already 4-wheel drive, it's already fairly ready to go and everything else, but I turned that Winnebago camper van into the beast. I jacked the suspension, stabilized it. You know, you're driving down in a 10,500 pound van, you don't want van suspension or even camper suspension. Put a winch on it, lights, cameras all the way around it. But the big thing is, I took that pathetic little piece of crap 22.5 gallon diesel tank and got rid of it. Now I've got enough fuel in that thing, which remains fueled all the time, to go 1,000 miles. Maybe I should get in it one day, fill the tank up, and as far as I drive south, when it runs out of fuel, this is where we're going. But I did. We traded in everything. We had some help. But what I'm going to do for the interns and you know, other people that come to when the collapse starts big time, is we're looking into a bus to convert it, to get people down to the new property, and hopefully we'll be able to find something. My goal is to find it by this summer. And then for whoever wants to, we can work as a community to start making it a place of the new society where people face each other to talk, where there is truth, love, joy, real compassion, a centerpiece for saving the earth. And that would send out such an intense concentric ring. That's why I want you to stay in touch. Now, I'll tell you flat out, don't bother Kelly with this. You know more than she does. And of course, Celeste knows a lot more than you do. Make a distinction here, gang. At the end of March, we're going to do that drawing for, that we put out there for a day with me. And afterwards is going to be an emergency update. You're not going to find much of this in that update. I'm going on a different track there. But that's because they're not all tracker family. There's people who had just one tracker class 20 years ago or 30 years ago, whatever. So, but if you could, sit in on it, listen to it, because you'll start to plug that into the things here that you learned. But what's funny is back to the beast, the van. Some people have saw it, but what I tell people, and which is the truth, during the weeks off, Celeste and I want to take road trips to various areas, sometimes even to visit a student. And along the way, if I see something that is interesting, we're going to pull off and videotape it. Celeste will run the camera, I'll, do the whatever, and Dave will eventually edit it. But we're thinking of, I don't know how we're going to present this to everybody. It's like on the road with the tracker. The kids, we had borrowed a big camper years ago, and they called me the Discovery Channel. Because as I was driving, I'd say, oh, there's a this and that and there's a that. Or we'd stop, go to the bathroom. Wait, I want to show you this, and I got to pee. So that, I guess, put the seed in Celeste's head. And that's what I would tell anybody that saw the van, what we're using it for. But then the real reason. Escape. With what I told you. Remember that exercise you did in the beginning? I want you to go back to it. It's ironic that one of the ones that I read, they saw green pastures at the east. Your empowered vision is that tracker family community. Gardens, horses, insulation, protection. And you're simply going to go surrender to silence and let the silence speak to you again. Let's see what happens. 15 minutes to do that with a 5-minute right back. Hey folks, welcome back. I can tell from your feedback that most of you are seeing into a very bright future. And I know that some of you have already considered through your own vision that there's other places that you would like to go to, and that's fine. Time and distance does not make a difference. What makes a difference is the tracker family. Now, before, when I jumped the gun and I said Central America, and, would be one of the top ones on the list, knowing I should have held back on that, the vision was kind of vague. And people looked at it like, that's a long way away. That's a foreign country. And they got some problems. Understatement. But I'll tell you, as soon as I got that vision of North Carolina or the mountains of Tennessee or something like that, I just, wow, a burden was lifted. And now that we all have a common vision, I'm hoping and praying that the communication comes all together. You know, we need people like, you know, I got my carpenters here. I've got, you know, electricians, but you know, we need thinking of going off the grid completely. That's why I'm interested in that stream to put a mill up, both for grinding and for creating, you know, electricity. But your feedback is damn amazing. And as I see it, the community will always be open to anyone, even though you might be 3,000 miles away. And of course, the collapse is not, you know, breathing down your doorstep, so to speak. You come visit. And the neat thing is grandfather said the old ways where you had family group or a clan, and then out from them there were other clans. And a couple of times a year, like the Lakota, the Blackfeet, you know, would come together because this spread out the carrying capacity of the land. And plus, as we heal the earth and plant plants that we need that are indigenous to the area, we're going to have a nice little community where, you know, we'll have a central sweat lodge, you know, and stuff like that, a central fire. And then, you know, I like the idea of finding that piece of property where, you know, will be the central farm, so to speak, my residence. And from there, seeing where there's blocks of 10 acres here, 5 acres here. And I'm not worried about you guys and, you know, putting up a cabin because I know you're going to do it in the right way. And your area that you buy, whether it be one person or collectively a number, you know, will actually make the landscape better. I think now, given all that I've said to you, that you realize why Celeste came up with the idea of auctioning me off. Because as soon as we get something, we're going to take and put a down payment on it because I've got to start someplace. And like I said, this is my last day of being 72 years old. And after midnight tonight, it's 73. Anyway, what's going to happen, gang, and I thank you ever so much for coming here and listening to me today, listening to grandfather, the elders, the silence, and the silence in your hearts, that we're ready to move forward. And you see it out there. It's frightening. Is this the kind of society you want to raise your kids, where they're afraid to go to school? You know, I just, we're going to go to blank screen for about 2 minutes. I'm going to say goodbye for right now. Hope to see some of you in that silence class coming up in a couple of weeks. That's going to be a big one. And I'll see the rest of you at the end of March. Right after the drawing, I've got another about an hour and a half of, you know, emergency updates. Bless you.
So there's going to be breakout rooms, I think, coming up here in just a minute. So if you're staying on, we're not quite done.
Hey, everyone. Well, lots of changes, big announcement there. It's really interesting. The last several chat messages that I saw before Tom asked me to come and sit here were people expressing relief and, an excitement looking forward. So that's really good. Since we're all together here, what would be great is in a few minutes after I just go through a couple things that Tom wanted me to say, we're going to set up breakout rooms so we can all get together and talk about this a little bit more. So, couple quick notes. For starters, Tom just wanted me to reiterate to everybody that all of this information is just for us. He said very specifically just for keepers and our closest family. So it is okay to share this with closest family members, but again, he really wanted us to keep all of this knowledge and information really close to our hearts. In speaking with the elders here, one of the things that came up was we're getting closer to the time, right? And as we get closer to the time, the visions will be more clear, more coherent, more distinct. And it really seems to be what's going on here. Tom also wanted me to stress communication and the importance of it, as well as to welcome a group of new keepers here. The temples classes that were done, the new round of temples classes, anybody who went through temples 1, 2, and 3, Tom has welcomed into the keepers societies. So I want to welcome all of you. And I just want to mention at the Keepers Gathering this past summer, for those of you who don't know, a group of us, we're calling ourselves the Keepers of Community. We spent a lot of time talking about ways to connect with each other. The recordings of the gathering can be made available to people who were not there, so we can get into a lot more detail later. I just want to touch on it briefly. One of the underlying bases for what we talked about at the gathering has to do with connection and communication. Exactly what Tom is stressing that he wants us to do. For those of you who don't know, our group is putting together a mentoring program. It actually starts in a few days. Emails have gone out with links to the application and so on. And again, it's right in line with exactly what Tom is asking of us. So please feel free to email me or the elders. We can get you the links over to the application for the mentoring program. But we would love to see as many of you sign up and look into that as possible. All right. Other than that, it would be great for as many of you as you can to stay on for a little while longer and hop into the breakout room so we can talk about this. The only thing that I ask is we don't want 50 Charlie Blackwells in a breakout room. So if you don't mind, hover your mouse over your picture. You'll see 3 little dots. Click on them, and right at the bottom of that, it says rename, and put your actual name in there. Or if you don't want to share your name, at least say, I'm not Charlie Blackwell. Oh, that's good. So, thank you, everybody, and I really look forward to talking about this more and really feeling whatever that shift is with this new knowledge. So, see you all in breakout rooms. Thank you.
All right. So the breakout rooms are open. I think elders were invited to rooms, but you can stay in the main room, be fine. All right. Welcome back, everybody. And if you are not speaking, I really appreciating all the muted people being muting themselves. Thank you so much. All right, so we're still recording. And for the recording, before we close for today, we really wanted to get a sense of what happened in the breakout rooms, what the conversation was like. And so I'd really invite just a few people. We're not going to be able to do this for everyone, but invite a few people to share what was really alive and vibrant in your conversation today. And yeah, we'll just, let's see, go to, yeah, Dan.
Yeah, it was a beautiful breakout room discussion on sort of maybe what's happening for the plant life in the various areas. Sort of plant die-offs, or learned about a whole jumping worm, an Asian jumping worm that's just decimating all the duff and the floor structures over in the States there. So yes, looking at what was happening, sort of how we all sort of were in the moment, and for each areas and things like that there. And then we got talking about sort of like structures, sort of like what was possible structures to be living in, whether it's like these prefab things or making structures or things like that. So it was a lovely conversation. Just really enjoyed the connection and just hearing the perspective of these other two gentlemen. So I just really appreciated that. So it was very lively. So thank you.
Awesome.
Great. It was
Thank
good
you,
value.
Dan. Mm-hmm. All right, and Jose.
Yeah, for me, it was just really beautiful to connect with two other trackers. Well, I got moved around to two groups, so it was nice to just connect with all the folks. And it's funny, I've never met the two individuals that I ended up with in the second room, but it was so beautiful because I just felt them, and I felt like I knew them, and it was just nice to, whatever they said to me, I just felt like it was just so much more than their words. And I really felt informed by their individual experience. And I just feel so fortunate to be able to experience that, to receive the wisdom of two other brothers in that way. So thank you.
Lovely. And Rana. Yeah.
That's Rana.
Rana.
And, yeah. And it was interesting. I was with three other people. They were all on the East Coast. My understanding, New York, Georgia, and I think Maine. But mostly we discussed whether we felt safe where we're living, or if we know where it would be safe to go in the future, and what we're looking at in terms of where to move, if we're going to move, or how we're protecting ourselves where we are locally.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
you,
what it was.
Excellent. Yeah, maybe just one or two more, and I'll turn it over to Janet.
She's muted.
Oh, you're muted. Will you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I was trying to. My phone was not cooperating. So we had a nice conversation about how, there is a talk. Tom was talking about a more centralized community, and then there's so much beautiful community and people planning in different places, and that, so it's sort of discussing location and that web that's already existing and getting stronger. And I have a question, really, which is why I raised my hand. So if we do feel called to be part of a more centralized community, that's specifically what Tom was talking about, is there already anything in place as far as communication about that? Or how can we volunteer and participate in planning and organizing that?
Well, that's a great question. I can answer from my perspective, and maybe there would be another perspective. But one thing I would say is to get involved in subscribing to like Belly of the Beast and the Razor's Edge, particularly. And Elizabeth is an elder. The elder is the publisher of that, and can put information in the chat. Those are communication efforts. And the other thing I would highly encourage keepers to do is to participate in the online monthly calls. And there's one next Saturday at 1 o'clock. And I will make sure that we get information out to all the keepers again this week. And in the months going ahead, I think we can continue developing those ways that we connect, on the physical and on other levels as well. So do any of the elders want to add to that, or is that feel good as an answer?
Rhonda?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm not an elder,
Okay.
but I just wanted to mention also about the 10 Stones invitation.
Ralph, you're breaking up, but yes. So there is the 10. So the 10 stones, these 10 guiding stones, the keepers of community are putting out, and we're starting the Keeping the Promise gathering this coming week. And if you're not in this first round, well, there will be invitations for future rounds. So it's not a rush. I know that Seth offered his email as a contact point for that, and I can also put my email in for that. Yeah, that Keepers Mentorship Program. So those are all answers to that. And I got a thumbs up from elders, so we're feeling fairly complete there. So I'm going to give Seth a moment to put his email in the chat, and then I will add mine. And and then I think we'll see. Are there any other report backs from the breakouts? Thanks for that question, Janet. All right. Well, then I will turn it over to Seth for closing prayer.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey again. So a couple announcements, and then we'll do our closing prayer. Something I forgot to mention earlier, the elders reminded me. There's concern, of course, from people who are too far away from the areas that Tom mentioned. And, what happens? Where do they go? And just, what I've been counseled to say is that information will be coming. There was also, I know the last question that came up was around communications. And again, Tom has really been stressing that. Our main vehicle for communications right now is the Keepers email group. It's the original one. It's called Keepers Gathering. For all of the new keepers, we'll get you added to that list so you can be part of that. We also, of course, encourage you to reach out, connect with people in your regions. There's nothing like knowing keepers who are close by, who you can stay in touch with. There's also questions, thoughts came up, requests around community building and how do we help, right? How do more people get involved with that? And for the last several years, I've been taking the lead on a community building project. It was, of course, focused around Belize. All of that kind of changes as of a few minutes ago. But the core of that, right, has not changed at all. And it's the core of that project and that vision that led to the Keepers Gathering this summer, to the 10 Stones, to really working on connection, right? Because regardless of where we are, we don't have a community if we're not connected with each other in the earth. And so I will be getting more communications out in the near future. I obviously need a little time for this to settle in, and a lot of us have to talk about the impacts of all of this. But again, the underlying work that we're all doing on communication, on connection with each other, with the earth, and so on, none of that changes. And hopefully with a lot of the comments that I saw around people being excited about this, people feeling relief in terms of the updates on the locations, people really connecting with the exercises and the information that Tom came out. Hopefully all of that is really great motivation for us to accelerate all of the work that we've been doing. And of course, feel free to reach out to me, to Rhonda, to the elders with questions and so on. And of course, on the Keepers Gathering email group. So all of that being said, I think that it'd be a good time to start to head toward our closing prayers here. So let's all just take a moment and gather up in Grandfather's Camp. If any of you have not been there physically, but you want to join us for this, all of those of us who are there, let's pull them in and have everybody gather around the central fire. Feel us all there. Let's hold hands around the fire. Feel the earth beneath our feet. Feel what it feels like to really be in Grandfather's Camp. Feel us all connecting as one community, as one new society. Let's start with a little bit of gratitude, tremendous gratitude for Tom, for all that he's given to get here, and for Grandfather and the lineage before him, for the elders, for Rhonda and Dave, for all the work that they're doing to coordinate these meetings. And let's pray for us as a society to be open to all of this new information, for us to learn what we need to learn and be able to move forward as a cohesive group and as a new society. And let's all take that to silence. All right. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully I'll see you all soon.